right, folks, we're going to get things started tonight. Welcome to Evenings with Artifacts. My name is Heather Nickerson, co-founder and CEO. I'm joined tonight with my fellow co-founder and CSO, Ellen Goodwin, and our two fabulous guests, Brooke Hardie and David MacMahan. Before we dive into intros, we want to just take a moment to acknowledge what the topic is tonight. So we are talking about solo aging and how to help you or your loved ones who may be solo aging, how to prepare as a solo ager to tackle all that stuff. And for those of you who completed our survey earlier this year, we had asked a bunch of topics, a bunch of questions. And to our surprise and delight, solo aging was one of the top 5 requested topics for us to cover on evenings. So here we are as we close out our spring Evenings with Artifacts series finale. We are talking about solo aging. And for those of you who are joining us tonight that may not be familiar with solo aging, we want to take a moment and just kind of define what it is. So according to AARP, solo aging refers to the process of growing older independently without the direct support of maybe a spouse or children or other really close family members. And this could include individuals who found themselves widowed unexpectedly, perhaps divorced, maybe even estranged from family. Maybe you have family, but they aren't in close recurring contact with you. So solo aging can incorporate a lot of different family dynamics, but the important part is you're tackling this largely on your own. You may very well have a large friend network, and that's fabulous. The solo agers we work with all have really engaging friends and community networks. But when it comes down to kind of end of day, thinking about next of kin, and again, what happens to that stuff, it's a different dynamic. So we're really excited to welcome Brooke and David for tonight's conversation. So let's dive into intros. And I'm going to start with Brooke Hardie. Brooke is joining us again from Austin, Texas. She brings 25 years experience in private legal practice, including 19 years focused on estate planning. She practices with Hardie Alcozer, a boutique estate planning, probate, and fiduciary litigation firm in Austin, Texas. Having handled it all, Brooks offers seasoned, practical insight with a personal touch, and I will say a great sense of humor. She's especially passionate about planning for solo aging population because she's walking that path herself. So talk about an expert. We also have David MacMahan joining us as well. David, in early 2010, committed himself to using online tools to reduce the time, emotional challenge, and expense around dividing personal property in estate settlement, downsizing, and divorce. The web made it possible for FairSplit, David's company, to be a blind, impartial system offering transparency and a fair way to divide assets. Recently, David and his team have added AI to the platform, reducing what was typically 30 to 50 hours to list the contents of a home to maybe 2 to 4 hours. So as David likes to say, divide things, not families. And we will be popping both the contact info for David and Brooke into the chat. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ellen to kick off the conversation tonight. We're thrilled you're here.
I'm thrilled I'm here too. No, that wasn't for me, folks. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here this evening. And I had the delight of being local here with Brooke, and we get to meet up and we've gotten to know each other. And she tolerates all of my questions about all things legal and has the patience of a saint and the energy to exceed my own. And if you know me, that says a lot. So, Brooke, we have talked a lot about this because you work with a lot of clients who are solo agers. You are yourself a solo ager. Let's start with the planning and preparedness and, set the stage. What is the biggest thing that we need to be talking about, worrying about? Let's start there. And then we can go into some of the things that are maybe different between people who are and are not solo agers. So kick us off, please.
Yeah, happy to. I'm so happy to be here. It's fun already. And I really appreciated Heather's introduction and definition of solo agers because so often people who are not married and or maybe they don't have kids have what I like to call family, friends who are family. And so you're completely surrounded, supported, all of that, but then you're treated very differently under the legal system than if you were actually related to those people. And so I think that tonight's topic is good to talk about bridging that gap in the law. And basically, the top takeaway that I would say, if I had to boil it down to one sentence, would be the same planning applies to single or solo agers that it does to others. It's just even more important to do. And the planning, just to kind of give everybody an overview, just because, you know, some of you all attending may or may not have wills, you may be curious about the estate planning process in general. Everybody, you know, 18 and up really should have a will or a revocable trust-based plan. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty specifics around the difference between those two types of plans, but I do like to educate folks on the fact that in some states, the probate process, which, by the way, never gets defined really for anybody, the probate process is getting a judge to declare that piece of paper you're calling a will a legal document. Until it has a judge's order saying, yep, I declare that that's a legal document and this person is appointed your executor, it's just a piece of paper. So you do have to go through the court system in your state, usually in the county where you resided at the time of your death, to effectuate that will, get the executor appointed and on their way. In a lot of states in the US, Texas excluded, the probate system can be very take a lot of time and be very expensive. And oftentimes it's customary for attorneys to take a percentage of the estate assets as their fee. So those types of states, you're going to be usually looking at more of a revocable trust-based plan, which is creating a trust now that's in effect. You're the trustee, you're the beneficiary, you're it. And it's a very benign, you know, transparent trust. But what you do is you title all of your assets into the name of the trust. Bank accounts, real estate, stock, all the stuff can be a real pain, but it's less of a pain than probate sometimes. And the idea is get everything titled in the name of your revocable trust, also called a management trust. And then you avoid the probate process, because anything that's titled in the name of a trust bypasses the probate process. So it's good to talk to a lawyer in your state and say, hey, you know, what are the pros and cons of either? But I get a lot of questions around will or trust and which do I need? And by the way, saying the word trust is like saying the word business. There are lots of flavors, lots of purposes, lots of ways to draft them. There are trusts that form upon death. There are trusts that form upon, during your lifetime. So that's a whole other topic, but revocable trusts are very common. So you either want that the will or the trust, and then of course you're going to want to have in place what I call the disability documents, powers of attorney. You're alive and still kicking, but maybe you are incapacitated. Maybe something acute has happened, or maybe you are starting to suffer from dementia, you know, and things are not clicking as easily. Maybe you just don't want to handle the finances of your life anymore and you want to, you know, source that out to an adult kid to start earning their inheritance. And so what you're looking at there is going to be a financial power of attorney, handle all of your property finances, talk to your insurance company, file your tax returns for you, all of the business of being an adult. And then your medical power of attorney, obviously to make medical decisions if you're unable. And then also grouped in this set of documents that really everybody should have is the advance directive, also known as a living will, also known as a directive to physicians. And that is the quintessential pull the plug document if you are in the hospital on machines and it is those machines that's keeping you alive and you really are unable to maintain life on your own without those machines. Do you want to be taken off those or not? And there's a smattering of other sort of documents as well, but those are the main ones. And the reason I say, it's even more important for folks who are unmarried to have those documents in place is because your state has written a will for you if you've not written your own. And I guarantee you that it doesn't say what you want it to say. Again, I am only licensed in Texas, so I speak from a very Texas, standpoint legally, but it's very similar in most states where if you die intestate without a will and trust, revocable trust, then Texas goes, okay, well, this stuff's got to go somewhere. And so did she have a spouse? No. Did she have children? No. Okay, then we go to parents. Did she have living parents? Yes, but she was, one she hadn't talked to in 36 years, and she's close to her dad. Well, okay, mom still gets half, dad gets half. And by the way, mom and dad now need to fight over who's going to be appointed executor of the estate because they both have even keel, opportunity to do so. So saying where you want your property to go and saying who you want in charge, both upon your death and during your life for financial or medical decisions, is imperative. Because if you're married, the default rule is your spouse is either inherits and or takes the role of executor or power of attorney. And if you're not married, okay, next in line are your kids. And chances are better that you're close to your spouse and or your kids, then you're more, the more extensive family members that, siblings. That's where the fun starts, as we say. I have had several matters over the years, more than several, where the person passed without a will or a trust or anything, and we've had to track down family members, that didn't even know of the person's death. You've heard the term laughing heirs. Well, they're laughing because they said, well, hot damn, I'll take that check or I'll take that house, even though I wasn't close to my siblings. And it just, it's sad because, not because these people inherited necessarily, okay, but the person didn't take control over their legacy. That the person had worked very hard to accumulate whatever assets they did during their lifetime, and then gosh, what an impact they could have made for their favorite charity or their live-in partner of 26 years who they weren't married to. In order to provide for a companion, a partner, longtime boyfriend or girlfriend, you've got to have a will. And I should mention too that even though we've talked about wills and revocable trusts, there are other buckets of assets that you've got to pay attention to in coordinating your overall estate plan. I oftentimes say, it's not, do you have a will? It's how many wills do you have? And what I mean by that is, do you have a will? Do you have a revocable trust? Have you designated beneficiaries on your IRA or your 401k? Or have you put POD, pay on death, or TOD, transfer on death, same thing, different vernacular, for any kind of bank accounts? Banks love having those on your accounts because it makes it very easy for them to get the money to whomever's named on that account after you die. Having those types of beneficiary designations, TOD, POD, is like doing a baby will for that one asset because it takes precedence over whatever your will says or whatever your revocable trust says. And so coordinating those with what your overall will says that may control the disposition of your house and your cash accounts. But like so many Americans, you know, a lot of our wealth is held in an IRA or a 401k. And so really paying attention to those details are very, very important, because if you haven't designated a beneficiary, or if you've gotten divorced and your spouse was listed, there's a default plan for who's going to inherit that, much like Texas writes a will for you if you don't have one. The contract that you signed when you set up that IRA or that 401k says what happens if there's no available beneficiary.
And Brooke, on that point, I recently read a book, and I was really struck by the importance of going into your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your IRA, and doing this, because what the book was pointing out was, if you don't, those assets can be locked into probate, and all the expenses, if you had been paying your mortgage, if you've
Yes.
been paying XYZ or paying for the funeral, all those expenses are going to keep going, and no one can access those financial assets until the probate's done. And so it's really creates a burden that's unnecessary.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I'm so glad you said that, because, you know, in the context where you have a spouse that's on the accounts, you know, they just keep on keeping on with paying bills and all of that. When you are the only one on accounts, those accounts freeze as soon as that bank learns of your death. And exactly right, that mortgage is still due. Now, a lot of people think the bank will foreclose quickly on a house if you miss a mortgage payment or 2 or 5. You know, it's not gonna, you can make it up as soon as you have access to the funds. And so I don't want people to freak out thinking that the house will be foreclosed on 6 weeks after someone dies. It takes a long time. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of notices that have to happen. But I really like, you know, telling people, look, life insurance, cash is king, right? Cash solves a lot of issues in this world. And life insurance, to me, is not meant to make people rich, make the next generation rich, right? The purpose for that is, you know, pay for college if you're not around to do it, or pay off that house so your spouse can comfortably stay in it, or whatever. But for a single person without kids, we don't have those big concerns. But I still think it's nice to have a smaller policy, maybe $100,000 policy that's payable to your executor. Now, you got to trust that executor and say, hey, sister, brother, whomever, friend, you're the beneficiary legally. This is going to be your cash, but it is earmarked to, you know, pay those bills and bridge the gap until you can be appointed my executor and get at all of the money. I do not recommend making your friend, executor, sibling, whomever, pay on death, transfer on death beneficiary of, you know, $1 million in IRA funds or 401k funds or anything like that, because then you get into gifting issues as well. Even if they were going to use that money to pay for things for the estate, you kind of create some static for them on them now gifting to beneficiaries when they pay for stuff. Okay. So it just gets weird if they're paid out large sums of your estate. Plus, you got to trust that they're going to do what you want. So often, I've heard people say, "Oh, you know what? My sister knows what I want to have happen, so I've just made her the sole beneficiary of everything, and she knows what I want." And I'm like, Miss Skeptical over here. Oh my gosh, poor lawyers.
Brooke,
This guy is
I
falling.
was going to jump in with something, a story I heard. I was speaking with a group of probate realtors, and what you were talking about, the banks freezing the accounts, is quite often people have auto pay set up on their electric bill, their water bills, their gas bills, and sometimes even being able to pay the lawn care people.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the greatest asset probably most people have is their home. And if
Yes.
you can't maintain it, if you can't keep it functioning until probate allows it to be sold, the value of it continues to go down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And people are having to come out of pocket oftentimes to pay for these things until they can free up the money in your estate. And best case scenario for anybody who's wondering, what is the timeline? How long does it take? Best case scenario, if there is a will and you found the original and it looks good and the person really took care of business, it depends on the courts and how backed up they are. But in our little county of Travis County here in Austin, you file the will for probate and there's a mandatory wait time. Best case scenario, we're down there in 30 days getting our executor appointed. And that day they get issued what are called letters testamentary that then they can take to the bank, they can take to the title company and all of that. But to your point, David, even when they're appointed, it takes time to ready a house and funds. And so all of your funds upon your death are there to cover those costs before things go to beneficiaries.
I was going to throw something in here too. Just being in California, it came up, and I was shocked. This is not a slam against attorneys, probate attorneys in any way, but it's kind of prescribed in California. There's sort of a formula. It's 3% of the first, 3% of the first 100,000, 2% or 100 or a million.
Okay.
Whatever it is, it was so shocking to me because also the part that was really shocking in California, it'd be pretty typical to have $1 million home. That's kind of like a starter home in some areas, right? So if you only have 200,000 in equity in that home, that's not what the percentage is created from. It's on the value of the home. So if it's $1 million home, you're looking at 3% of that total million, not the 200,000 equity you have. So all of a sudden, do the simple math, there's 30,000 gone out of your estate, just
exactly
out of the 200 maybe you had in the home, and then another 20,000 to process, or 30. And the next thing you know, you thought you were leaving your caregiver or your nephew, or you thought you were going to leave them something, and it goes away fast.
Right. It really does. And I think that all ties back to, yes, doing the planning, whether you're aging solo, married, 28,000 years, doing the planning is that important because things can get sideways really fast. And the other side of the coin is, and this is more specific to solo agers, is you've done all the planning. It's on bond paper. It's gorgeous. It was very expensive. But what are your assets? What are your liabilities? What is your poor executor or your trustee, successor trustee? What are they going to need to do? And there have been times where, someone passes away and hasn't told anybody, their siblings, whomever, where their accounts are, where they might have other real estate other than their residential home. Those unproducing royalties in Oklahoma, state that have not produced income that everybody forgot about. So simply having a list of all your stuff, bank accounts, all types of property and assets, as well as your liabilities, as well as your financial advisor if you have one, your CPA if you have one. It's not fancy. It's telling people where the bodies are buried, And in my little narrative document that I have for my family, it says, hey, this is everything that's auto drafted. This is the only bill that I pay every month, which is my Amex bill. And so, just know that all that's going on. And what about passwords? Oh my gosh, yeah. Passwords change constantly, right? But what I have found in my own practice, and a lot of lawyers may have different opinions. Yes, there's all of the passcodes that you can keep online. Absolutely, I think those have worked well. But I also encourage people, and don't get mad at me if you get robbed and then they steal all your passwords, to print a copy, date it, and keep that with your will in a very safe place. There is no substitute for paper in this world when it comes to probate stuff, because so often your laptop is locked, nobody knows the password. And yes, passwords get outdated all the time, but having about 75% of the good passwords is better than zero.
And Brooke, have you run into issues with password saving companies who will say it's illegal for you to sign in on their behalf, even if you know their password, to
Yes,
access those passwords? I imagine that this
absolutely.
becomes really sticky.
Absolutely. And you can list people that can access it, but that's a lot to keep up with too, and remember and all of that. And so this is all organic, right? You got to keep up with it. I like to just put a little tickler on my calendar every 2 years that says, stop what you're doing, check your will, check your accounts, reprint your passwords or whatever. And just, gosh, throw your poor executor or trustee a bone and say, here's where you start.
Thank you, Brooke. I think
Yeah.
this is a great place to pause on because we'll flip over to David and you all will see exactly why these conversations that we're having with Brooke and David meld so beautifully together, because among the things that you're going to worry about with an estate and the things that people will fight over is the stuff in the home. And you're used to hearing us here at Artifacts talk about that. I'm going to flip it back over, and Heather and David are going to talk about the stuff in the house that has to get divided some way and needs to get out so you can actually recover that house asset and move forward. Heather?
Great. Thank you, Ellen. And David, as Ellen said, this is a great segue into what you do at FairSplit. Would you be able to share with our audience exactly how does FairSplit work? And what are some of the considerations when we're thinking about dividing up everything inside the house? How do you do that, especially if you're a solo ager? Like, what's the process like? Walk us through it.
We recently, this is a great example. About 9 months ago, we worked with a very, this particular lady was quite wealthy, and she had a pretty good sized house, an apartment in Beverly Hills. And her executor was a family friend. And if you've never been an executor, just know, you're not doing anyone a favor by making an executor. It's a tremendous amount of work to be the trustee or the executor, more so than anybody imagines. And this person took it very seriously. And she had left instructions. She didn't have any children, had never been married, but she had done quite well in life. And I don't know how either. I don't know if she made it on her own or inherited it, but she had an extended list of heirs that she wanted to be sure that things could go to. They could choose things. And that included family friends, but it also included nieces and nephews, and it included people who hadn't seen her in 10 years. And this person had to track down like 20 people. And he wanted to get everything listed in this apartment. I mean, she had Prada purses, she had wonderful paintings and different things like that. And she didn't want to equalize values. She just wanted everybody to have a fair chance at choosing. She kind of made it equal for everybody. But here's what I'll say is unusual, and Brooke, you could probably back me up on this, is most, even the best crafted trusts and wills, we are really pushing to try to get more attention to the personal property, because in most cases, if it says more than this, it's only in fluff, is divide everything equally among the kids.
Totally.
There is very little specific instruction that goes with that. And as I've talked with so many families, when this is what we do the personal property. You can list, if it's a divorce, you could list liabilities and different things on it. But for the most part, we deal with the stuff, everything from the cars, furniture, jewelry, paintings. And as one attorney told me, Brooke, she said, I didn't go to law school for this. You do that.
Oh, and lawyers are terrible about giving ample time to this. And David, I would equate oftentimes a death with being very similar to a post-death divorce. It's like, especially when you have, an ex-spouse and the kids and they're all fighting. That's what they fight over, is the
Right.
stuff oftentimes. So doing what you do is imperative to.
Well, and as you
And
know,
David,
yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in on this too, just to reiterate, like this is what happened with my family. My mother was not a solo ager,
Mhm.
but she had an estate plan. And we all thought, like, way to go. Like, you've got this taken care of. It's in this big, beautiful leather binder. It's got all
Yeah.
these pages and tabs and dividers and sections. And when she passed away 8 years, completely out of the blue, my brothers and I were left to divide up all the stuff. The
With
account,
no,
the
with
property, big
no,
items.
okay.
Right. Like
Yeah.
those were taken care of legally, but can you imagine how much stuff, and of course you can imagine, David, you know this, you see this
Yeah.
every day, but how much stuff fits into a house? That's a
Yes.
daunting task. And it was exactly as you and Brooke said. It was essentially divided equally among myself and my brothers. And it's, where do you start?
Yeah, and the thing is, and what I was saying about being the executor or trustee, the filing the death certificates, the dealing with the institutions, getting even all those things is plenty of time. That's time consuming enough. And then you look at this, like a 5,000 square foot home the family's lived in for 75 years, and now it's filled with thousands of items, particularly. And then as the executor, well, we're talking solo agents, so I'm not going to get too distracted with typical situations with multiple people showing up. But the things that I help people realize before you start dividing things or figuring out who's going to get what, you need to know, are the values of those things important? Are you going to be equalizing the value? If you've left everything to 3 people, and as a solo agent, that makes sense too. You might be leaving it to 3 of your best friends, and they all get along great. Maybe you all play bridge together. They're not going to get along well in this process unless you give them specific instruction that is clear what your wishes were, because otherwise it's all subject to interpretation. It's all subject, well, I'm sure she would have wanted this. I knew her better than you did. She would have wanted us to do this. You're leaving so much to potential conflict if you don't. And let me tell you how easy it is. I've got a sample letter of instruction, and it's on our resources page. It's a 1-page document, that is just a draft, and you can give it to your attorney. You can modify it to match what you want. But the key things that don't get addressed are who's going to pay for packing and shipping. Okay, I chose it, but I live in Arizona, the estate's in California. If I choose that, am I going to have to pay to pack it and ship it? Well, I better not choose any furniture, right? Because if I choose the dining room set, it's going to cost more to ship it than it's worth. I better choose the jewelry and the art. If it doesn't address, what about things that have been gifted in the past 2 years? Do I just get those back, or do I have to choose those? I always say, before we start dividing everything in the house, let's get everybody to agree this is what should be divided. Because in our system, you get everything listed, and the first step is yes or no. Does anybody want this? But at the same time, we're saying yes or no. Does this look right to you? This is listed in here. Is this correct? Are we missing something? The example I give is the vacuum cleaner that you loaned your friend last year because hers broke. You forgot to pick it up. Well, that's part of the estate now, unless it's just been made clear that return anything that was loaned to me, or if it was gifted in the last. Some families just do, oh yeah, everybody knows who gifted what. There are so many questions. Is there going to be balancing of the value is probably the biggest one. And I'm telling you, it does not. There was a full-page New York Times article written when we first started, 2 sisters in probate. I promise you, they were not dividing $5,000 worth of stuff in the house. If you had a yard sale and you said everything's for sale, you wouldn't have gotten to 5,000. The house had been sitting for a year because the sisters could not be in the same room together. They hated each other, and they wanted everything appraised. And we're going, appraised? It's going to cost you twice what it's worth to even have somebody come tell you it's worthless. So the fiduciary was actually just hung, like he couldn't sell the house till it got emptied. So I'm telling war stories here, but giving specific instruction all the way. Oh, this is so, I see this more often than you would imagine, is the person named executor thinks that they were named executor, and it's a gratuitous job. Because they were given that job, they're supposed to do everything. You need to put instruction letters, use estate funds to hire people to help you with this process, to hire a move manager to help you pack everything up, to clear the house, You know, in our case, if you're using our services, you know, there would be it's not a big fee, but there's a fee. And so some people go, well, we better not do that because that's using estate funds to, and I go, if it saves you 40 hours of work, I think it's going to be okay, but it's up to you. So, you know, our system at FairSplit is, I tell people we are a tool. We are a tool in the toolbox to help achieve what the trust or will said to do. But so often that will or trust does not give the specific instruction. And they often are relying on me as an independent third party. Would you help guide us in this? Because my brother says this. A recent one, the brother said he should get everything with his dad's initials on it because he was a junior. A whole collection of guns with initials on it, a collection of other things. And I said, well, I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice, but you guys sent me a copy of the will or trust. I don't see that wording in there. And the rest of the family has indicated to me they're not comfortable with that. So I would suggest you put those near the top of your list and you're probably going to get it. So, you know, but even if you're a solo ager and you've got people that you want to bequeath things to, I mean, it might be your caregiver who has helped you the last 5 years. It might be your bridge partner, which is wonderful. You need to be specific on this because, you know, as Brooke can tell you, if you've got a substantial estate, most of the details of the estate, there's kind of like a poison pill. If you don't agree to what they've designated, you're out. Like if you challenge it and you're not correct, there's some guardrails there that says you can't fight over this. This is the way it is. The personal property is the last frontier for, yeah, let's fight over that. And and sometimes they don't even mean to. I most of the time have executors or trustees. They're coming to me not expecting the family to be fighting, not expecting conflict, but they just need a system and they just need guidance, partly because the will or trust didn't give them guidance. I mean, I take it all the way down to change the rekey the locks on the house when I die. And people, because I've had sisters so mad at their sister who was the executor. How dare she lock me out of my house, out of my mom and dad's house? Well, she should. I mean, I've got a whole video series called Dividing Things with David. And one of the things I talk about is rekey those locks. The gardener might have a key, the caregiver, the housekeeper has a key, or maybe the neighbor's teenage boy that lives next door has seen you hide it under the rock a bunch of times. And he just thinks it'd be cool to go into the house with his friends to a house somebody just passed away in, you know, who dared him to. There's lots of reasons, rekey them, but there's a whole list of things, and it's not that long. It's like a page that will help so much in making sure that that part goes well for you. And then just so you know, in our system, you know, we just, now AI has made it so incredible to catalog a home. It used to be that you take pictures of everything and then you go back and you create a spreadsheet and you upload the pictures to Dropbox and then you put the link to the photo in the spreadsheet. No, now with our system, you go room by room and you just click, 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 go fast with your cell phone camera, log into your account, transfer those photos into the living room. Now go to the next room and take those photos. If you want, you can go ahead while while it's uploaded and you go down to the bottom of the photos in the room. And I could, if we have time, I'll show you a demo. But you just click on submit to AI, go to the next room. And I will show, AI will name the item. It will categorize it. It will give you a 2-sentence summary of what it is. It'll say AI anticipates the value is this, double check it. It'll say it's this size, length, width, and height. It's this cubic footage. If it has to, it is amazing. And so instead of it taking, what one trust officer told me, between 30 and 50 hours typically to go send their staff in and catalog all the contents of the home, for people to, for the people that are the beneficiaries to be able to say yes or no, do I even want any of this? And then to make choices. Now I did a house, 5,000 square feet, everything but the jewelry that was extensive needed to be laid out, 2 hours. You know, and it's chock full of artwork and furniture and things like that. So if you're a solo ager, and you've got some time, if you're retired, it's kind of fun. I mean, you just go around and take pictures of everything. And now if you know who you want to leave those to, you can make a note in the system, leave this to so-and-so. And then you can reference that in the letter of instruction and say, things named in this platform in FairSplit, things named to go here are my wishes. And even I'm going to throw a plug for Ellen and Heather here, because it's wonderful to get it. You can get it cataloged quickly with us, but if you want to leave a cool video telling your friend why you left her this, or the story behind that you got this on your first trip to Paris when you were a college girl and you just thought your niece would think that was the coolest thing ever, you can tell those stories through Artifcts and then put it into FairSplit, a link to it, or just have it separate. But those are the cherished things when you're gone, is to be able to look back and know the story behind things and know that you wanted a person to have it. Now, I still recommend, if possible, give it away while you're living. Enjoy the beauty of gifting while you're alive. Then there's no question, right? You gave it. In our system, what we tell people, if you've cataloged everything and you gave it to someone, go ahead and make that note on it so nobody thinks it got stolen, or maybe they think, oh, she must have taken that when she was visiting or and she was sick, or, you get a lot of interesting feedback that gosh, just.
Yeah, David, we have a whole
Yeah.
series on Swedish death cleaning, right? It's the whole
Yes, yes.
going through your stuff while
Yeah.
you're alive
Yeah.
and intentionally giving it away, but letting people know why you're giving it to them.
Oh, I'm
And
surprised they didn't have you on the show.
Oh, we tried.
We
We did
were going to be on it. It was my neighbor's house.
Oh, yeah.
I met with the producers 5 times. We did
Oh,
the test,
wow.
everything. And then the writer's strike happened.
Oh, no. Well, I'm not surprised, because what you do is amazing and so helpful with that. On the legal side, though, if you go to fairsplit.com and you go to our resources page, that sample letter of instruction is sitting there. There's also videos dividing things with David if you're wondering how things go or what to look at. But the AI makes it's actually kind of fun. If you haven't played around with AI, it's so fun. You put the photos into the room and you just hit submit to AI, and then you come
Actually,
back.
David, could you give us a quick demo? I think our audience would
Sure.
love to see
Yeah,
this. And just so
sure.
you know, we did, and folks listening, we did pop David's letter of instruction into the chat, so you
Oh,
can
right.
download that
Okay, good.
while David's getting set up to do the demo. But I think it'd be really cool to see just how you've harnessed this technology to help. Again, if you're a solo ager and you're looking around your house being like, how do I get started? David's made it really easy. And then, of course, consult with your legal expert to ensure that whatever legal document, be it will, revocable trust, everything, the I's are dotted, T's are crossed to ensure that your wishes are in fact reflected as you wish.
Are you seeing the screen?
Yes, we can see
Okay,
it.
perfect. Okay, so this is an account that I'm going to say is already set up, and so we're just going to call it the Camarillo Private Properties and Assets. I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm going to show you. This is a list of the listed assets so far, but you can create distribution destinations, donate, divide, keep. You can create your own. If you want these given to Salvation Army or Women's Shelter, you can create that and then designate that. Once things are listed, you just go over here and do that drop-down menu, and you'll be able to put it wherever you would like to do it. And this is important for downsizing. If you move to assisted living or a smaller place, if you want to deal with doing this, it's almost like having to do an estate settlement even when you downsize considerably, because you don't want to just donate everything that's left over. So let me go. I'm going to go to a room that doesn't have that many things in it.
And by doing this process too, going through it, you can go, oh, there is going to be an issue. Both my daughters would love that wedding ring or something. And so those come to light. Maybe you can solve them early.
Yes, yes. So this is just say an entry for you. So I'm going to select this. This is what I call an overview photo, just to keep the perspective of the room. I'm going to move this over to AI hold, because right now you don't choose the photos that you're submitting in a room, everything gets submitted that isn't already part of hasn't already been named, or so I don't want that overview name. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to click submit to AI listing. And then it's telling me all the things to double check for. This is the thing being submitted. I'm just going to click start job. And then while that's happening, I'm going to, and there's a little bit of time it takes AI to do its magic, but let me just show you, we're going to go into, this is an abstract piece of art. You can click and see the bigger photo. So AI knew that we wanted the piece of art, not these two pictures. You'd take a close-up of those if you wanted to do those. And it is going to say abstract floral painting, bright colors. It's going to tell you acrylic on canvas, loose brush strokes, no frame. AI assumes this would sell for about $105. So this is just an interesting thing. If you want to click edit and you want to go in and you want to tell the story behind that painting, like I painted this when I was in college, you can just add these notes here, okay? You can type as much and long as you want. If you wanted to put a link to the Artifacts story behind it, where you actually are on camera or telling the story, you could put that right in here and click save. But in the meantime, let me go back to that entry foyer, and I need to hit refresh here. And unless AI is slower, no, here it is. Everything's listed: art, decorative, furniture. Again, round metal, accent table, dark finish. That would be this little accent table. So AI actually gives you the dimensions, 20 by 20, height 21. This used to take so long to categorize it, name it, describe it, measure it, and all that type thing. So really that's what I wanted to show, but I wanted to show you also, once you have this, once you've created this inventory and you want to invite your friends just to take a look at everything you've got and maybe just let you know, or your nieces and nephews that live out of state, you can invite people as an observer. They can't change anything, but you just invite them with their email, and now they're a part of your account. So you're able to do that. So I'm going to stop share. I don't want to spend too long on that. But do you see how fast that was? I mean, honestly, we used to hand do this for people. They would pay us, and we would have to charge about $1 an item to, they would upload the photos, and then we would have our people type it, categorize it, create the reports. Oh, you know what I should do? I should show you the report.
While you're doing something else, quick question from the audience. Yeah. How accurate have you found the AI? How does it know metal versus wood versus acrylic? And are you finding discrepancies?
It has been shocking to me how good it is. The clients, the family that have used it have said they think it's about 95% accurate. If you've heard of AI hallucinations, what we hear happens, okay, sometimes you'll take a picture of the sofa and it's got 4 throw pillows on it. And then AI will decide to tell you that 4 throw pillows, and it'll leave out the sofa. We keep narrowing or expanding our prompt to AI to make it better and better. The thing that it won't know on a piece of furniture, it won't know if the dresser is Henry Don or Baker or whether it's IKEA. It's just going to describe what it sees visually. Now, I'm going to say 3 months, it'll probably be 6 because I said 3. You're going to be able to submit 3 photos with 1 item. You're going to be able to group the photos of a single item, and you'll be able to take a picture of the inside drawer that says Henry Don, the chest, and then the damaged foot at the bottom. And then AI is going to go, this is a Henry Don chest of drawers. It's got a damaged foot, but we find the AI says this would be worth $350 instead of $75 if it was just IKEA, right? So it's just going to get better and better. But yes, actually, it's shockingly good. It does not know jewelry. It doesn't know if it's I tell people, if you're wanting to equalize values, you really need to get jewelry appraised for what it would sell for. No, not, I'm sorry, not what it would sell, what the jeweler would pay you for it. And because that's the cash value. The values that AI is putting on here, we've calibrated it where it's putting a typical estate sale value on it. And Brooke, you can weigh in if you think this is right, but we tell people that within the family, within the heirs, if you're equalizing, you should discount the values we have on this and appraisers put on things, discount them by 40% because you would, to get cash out of that item, you would have to pay an estate sales company or a consignment. So you want to try to be fair to everybody. I tell people if you've got an heir who wants to take way more than everybody else, God bless them. That's that much less that you've got to deal with. And they shouldn't pay the same price as they would have to pay if they show up at the estate sale. They should get the net cash expected value. And so that's how we usually recommend that. Solopreneur, the other thing, if you wanted to do it just for insurance purposes, I mean, we're in California. We met to dinner. We went to dinner with 12 friends about 2 months ago. 6 of them could not move back into their homes because of the fires. 2 of them lost their homes in the fires. None of them had a home inventory. So, that's another reason. And once you've got that home inventory, now all of a sudden you get creative. Like you said, you see that piece of jewelry that 2 granddaughters are probably going to want. You can invite them into the account. I've got these 2. Do you guys want to let me know, or should I flip a coin? Or you can do your own way of dividing, or just figuring out who wants what.
And I think those solo agers, again, it's just that much more important because it is a lot easier just to go, hey, I have 2 daughters. They get along great, and yes, there may be some resentment, but I'll be dead. How many times have I heard that? I'll be dead. Y'all work it out.
You've heard that too? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
No. But
I've done web seminars at retirement homes, right? And I'll talk about the perils of not giving good instruction. And I had one lady raise her hand. She goes, "What do I care? I'll be gone."
Yeah. And I kind of think that's a healthy outlook sometimes. I'm like, yeah, let everybody just behave. You did the best you could. But doing the best you could includes saying, it's solo planning, including and especially doling out your stuff that is so, your artwork and educating people on this is actually worth something, is that much more important for a solo ager because you get to play Santa Claus, right? With all your friends and family. And I think that's much harder than going, well, if I die first, I want it to go to my spouse, and then upon his death to our 3 well-adjusted adult children. That's like easy. It's the people that spend the most time in my office are the solo agers who go, oh my God, my nieces and nephews, but one niece, voted for so-and-so and I don't want her to get in it. So what do I do? And so you go through all this stuff and who do I appoint? Brooke, will you do it? And I'm going, nope, I ain't going to do executorship. Cause like David, I say, run like a scalded dog.
Yes.
Ever asked to be an executor?
As a matter of fact, in the letter of instruction, I mean, it's up to you, but if you ask somebody to be the executor, leave them. If they're not in your will,
oh yeah, pay them. Put a
because
payment. Talk to your lawyer about paying them and handsomely, especially if they're not a beneficiary in your will. But oh my gosh, all the more reason to go. This is who I want to go to. These 8 ladies that I play bridge with. Everybody is it's. In the inventory, gosh, Ellen and I are sitting in a city where we've started getting these horrible fire alerts, and I'm looking at this green belt right here going, shoot, gosh, dang it. Tonight, I'm going to be like,
and once you've uploaded them into our system, you don't even have to run the AI yet. You just get everything photographed in the cloud. And that way, if you push it 6 months from now, the AI is going to be even better. Or heck, you leave them in there. I do this all the time. I delete and add those. You can
Yeah.
delete everything you put in before and then resubmit it to AI in a year, and it'll be even better.
Yeah.
We had a question. Where am I? I'm in Ventura County, between Santa Barbara and Los Angeles part-time, and then up in San Luis Obispo County part of the time. But we do worldwide. I mean, we did 6 jobs in Australia last year, dividing. We did an estate in Portugal where the couple lived there and the kids all lived in Europe and the US. Nobody went to Portugal. The house manager took pictures of everything. We divided it in our system. She arranged the shipping. So, we're online. So it is fairsplit.com. And you're welcome to anything we have there. There's a lot of helpful things there. The videos. I had an attorney, Brooke, who was she was a corporate attorney. So her parents had made her the executor. It made sense. She's a lawyer. She she called me and she goes, I was so glad to find your site. She goes, every time I thought about doing all the contents of this house and how I don't have any time and I don't have it. And she goes, and I got this sister telling me this and this year, and my brother telling me this. And she goes, and I started watching your 1-minute videos. And she goes, with everyone I watched, I felt more relaxed. Like this is going to be okay.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah.
David and Brooke, we were almost at time, but we did have a great question from the audience. Mary Pat would like to know, have either of you had persons tell you they really don't have anything, no real estate, no accounts? What would you remind them of in that instance?
I know.
Brooke, you
Great,
jump. Yeah.
great question. Oh my gosh, I'm so passionate about this. I get that a lot. People downplay their stuff, okay? And I go, well, where'd you sleep last night? Oh, I rent. Okay. Well, you drove here. I saw. You know what? You got a car. I bet you have a bank account that puts gas in that car. You have stuff. And not to mention the stuff that you can tell stories about and video yourself and leave these nuggets and put them all on Artifacts. That is where the specialness is for so many people. And, for the multi-million dollar estates, when you take them through probate, who cares how much it costs? It's a drop in the bucket as compared to what everybody's receiving and all of that. It's a rounding error. But for, as I call them, normal folks, the hardworking folks who may have just $50,000 in a bank account, you're going to spend, 8 to 12 of it going through the probate process. So let's think about putting a pay on death beneficiary there or moving it into trust. But it's the normal folks who need to do the planning because you got stuff. Just look at the Artifact homepage. Got stuff? Yes, we all do. And it just eats into so much of the value. And as I think I've told Ellen before, even if you do rent, even if you do lease a car and you've just got a bank account and you have put a pay on death beneficiary on that, you've got that cool mink stole from your grandmother. What is the story on that? What's the story on that art piece that, has been in your family for decades? That is an estate plan. Your stuff, putting stuff on Artifact. And FairSplit, that is an estate plan. And so everybody's got crap. Well, everybody on here is living in America. I think we like our stuff.
The one that hits me, even if you truly have almost nothing, is those medical directives and things, because
Absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You don't want to be your chest cracked open when you're 85 years old to keep you alive when you're practically gone.
Yeah.
And I was friends with an ER nurse, ER doctor, and she wrote a book called It's Okay to Die. And she was saying that none of these people would have chosen to be forced resuscitated and all that. So if you don't have the right documents, they're under requirement to do all that. When the ambulance shows up at your place, if it's not listed, if it's not on your fridge somewhere they can find it, they're going to do everything they can to have you live 6 weeks in the ICU when that's not what you would have chosen.
That's right. That's right. It's all taking control of your own destiny and being, ruling from the grave too. I still matter. Look at this.
Oh, I was going to throw one more thing in. When I was waiting for my software to be built, I was going to do a notebook called Feeling Good to Go. And Feeling Good to Go was going to be a big yellow notebook, and it was going to have all the documents, all the locations. Here's where this is. Here's where And I think Ellen has met them, and Heather, there's a company called Knockbox. And it's just a file box, and it's got all the critical files in it that you should probably put together. And it just gets it all organized in one place. And they had a cool story. They went to settle their dad's estate. He had not left proper medical directives. They had to sit for 2 weeks, and the doctors wouldn't let them interact with what should be done. And then they had to clear out his estate. They couldn't find oh gosh, the registration for the golf cart. They couldn't find the ownership, so they couldn't sell the golf cart. All kinds of stuff, and it just made it so hard. So they came up with this system of files, and you can do it on your own, but they're nice people too, and it's a cool little comprehensive box.
And I thank you for sharing that, David, and Brooke, for your inputs. I think tonight's conversations really underscored the importance of, one, do something. If no matter what your situation, solo ager, we all have something that we care about, even if it's not a lot of some things. And then to David's point, and Brooke, the point you made earlier too, the medical directives, the medical records, those are all pieces we have to tie up at the end. Otherwise, the state has a plan for them, and we may not like that plan. But if we haven't done anything about it beforehand, we can't come back from the grave and change it. So take action today while we're all alive. So we want to say thank you very much to David and Brooke, and thank you to our audience for joining us tonight. This concludes our 5-part spring series of Evenings with Artifacts. We had a question earlier. Yes, this will be posted to our YouTube channel tomorrow morning. So if you want to rewatch, I think there was a lot of great advice from Brooke and David, and some of it was really fast paced. So feel free to go back, tune back in. Feel free to share with other solo agers you may know in your community. If you have any questions, please reach out. We've also included Brooke and David's contact information in the chat, and we'll include that as well with the YouTube video tomorrow, so you can easily reach either one of them should you have any follow-on questions. So with that, we want to say good night and thank you for joining us. Thank you, David and Brooke.
Thank you
we
so
will
much.
see you later on in the fall for the next round of Evenings with Artifacts.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
Bye.